Recording is on, and now it's over to you, Dr. Atul Upreti, who is the organizing secretary of this invited lecture series on biological science 2025, going to be happened from 24th of August to 28th of August. So over to you, Dr. Atul Upreti, please.
Thank you, sir. A very good morning and welcome to all the eminent speakers, teachers, and students to this third part of our invited lecture series on biological science. As Dr. Adarsh Pandey just told you, this online lecture series was conceptualized to benefit UG and PG students, and especially of small towns like Bajpur and Shahjahanpur. And when we start our third part of the series today, I can safely state that we are on the right path. To organize the first series was easier, but to sustain it was difficult. And I would like it to put on record the efforts made by Dr. Adarsh Pandey actually are the main driving force behind the success of these series. On behalf of GPGC Bajpur, SS College Shahjahanpur, and on behalf of entire organizing committee and on my own personal behalf, I welcome Dr. Anjana Bhatia from Jalandhar, Punjab to this series. Now, without wasting any time, I call upon Dr. Nirupama Dalakoti, who is reporter of our series, to formally introduce our guest to our audience. Over to you, Dr. Dalakoti.
Thank you so much, sir. Good morning, everyone. At this outset, I would like to welcome all the dignitaries, speakers, and organizing members and all the participants in today's event of invited lecture series on biological science 2020 organized by Government PG College Bajpur and SS College Shahjahanpur. It gives me immense pleasure in introducing our eminent speaker, Dr. Anjana Bhatia, Dean Equal Opportunity and Head of PG Department of Botany, Hansraj Mahila Mahavidyalaya, Jalandhar, Punjab. Dr. Anjana Bhatia is specialized in plant natural products and has wide experience in the field of research and publications and has published 5 books, 18 chapters in various reputed national and international journals. Dr. Bhatia has won many awards in the field of research like National Award for Creating Awareness amongst rural Punjab regarding biofuels, Young Scientist Award from Punjab Academy of Sciences, Gold Medal from District Administration for Extraordinary Social Services. Ma'am, we are very privileged to have you on this lecture series. Now I request Dr. Anjana Bhatia to deliver her lecture on biofuels.
Thank you, Dr. Dalakoti. Thank you so much. And the privilege is entirely mine. I feel so very happy to be a part of your this international lecture series, and it is really a great honor. And you guys are doing such a good job during the lockdown period. The knowledge must not be locked down. The botany and the zoology and the life sciences, they should keep rocking and students should keep benefiting. So I really salute Dr. Pandey and Dr. Atul Upreti, who are the sources of inspiration behind these series. And it is really good to be here today for the benefit of students. So students, now I'm addressing you. Very, very warm welcome to all of you. Today, I'm going to tell you a little bit about biofuels. And I must tell you one thing at the outset only, that the animal wealth and the floral wealth of our nation, the biodiversity, is really, really rich. And this biodiversity must be studied, explored properly for taking out the maximum benefit. And at the same time, we all must be very careful about conservation and preservation of this biodiversity. And my topic today is dealing with the biofuels, which is a very, very, happening topic, the buzzword. We want more and more energy. We want to be self-dependent in energy. So biofuel is one of the renewable sources of energy. So I'll share my screen now and just let me know if it is shared. Is my screen visible to all? Okay, thank you very much. So biofuels, the prospects and the problems. what are the avenues, and what are the challenges? That is what we are going to discuss in today's lecture. First of all, what is the alarming situation in front of us? The alarming situation, as you can see, is the rising population. It took us only 300,000 years to reach our first billion. And then the years kept on decreasing and the billions kept on increasing. So now, as of the 21st century, the first 2 decades, it took only 12 years to add the 5th and 6th billion. So we are increasing at a huge rate, and our sources of energy are the same, are limited. And if we talk about our nation, India, we are one of the largest energy importers of the world. We have imported 2% of coal in 1990, which rose to 22% in 2012. And as of now, it is much higher. India's energy expenditure, as you can see, there's so many whopping number of zeros after the 333. This many dollars we spend daily on the foreign energy sources. So that is huge, huge money involved in our, you can say, luxury and our survival. So India lags behind in the petroleum, coal and natural gas. And we can say, what is the alternate source of energy? We have to look at the alternative sources and those sources which really work well for us. So what are the various alternative sources of energy? Wind, hydropower, geothermal, biomass, biofuels, solar, all of these are, positive good words in the field of energy. But as a botanist and as a biologist, our interest is mainly in these two words, that is the biofuel and the biomass. So today we are going to concentrate on these. So as a botanist, biofuels seems to be very, very attractive. What is biofuel? Biofuel refers to the liquid or gaseous fuels. Liquid भी हो सकते हैं, gaseous भी हो सकते हैं, जो कि हम biomass से लेते हैं. It is considered relevant technology which will give us energy security, one, which can address our environmental concerns too, and which can also be easily available and biodegradable. Apart from being biodegradable, they can contribute to sustainability as well. Need for biofuels: a combination of rising costs, shrinking supplies, concerns about global climate change. They are spurring the development of alternatives to the burning of fossil fuels to meet our transportation energy need. So this is a map of world oil reserves, and you can see that India and the surrounding nations, they do not have many oil reserves, and we have to be dependent on these nations. So according to the alternative fuels data, the cleanest and the safest alternative to petroleum and diesel is biodiesel, followed by hydrogen, electricity, ethanol. So biodiesel includes a variety of ester-based oxygenated fuels. So please be very careful about this term, ester-based oxygenated fuels from the biological sources. And chemically, biodiesel is defined as monoalkyl esters. So they are actually the esters. So if we are talking about biodiesel, we have to work on the esterification part. Whatever we derive from the plants, we have to go for the esterification, right? So long chain fatty acids, once they are derived, we have to esterify them. And biodiesel is better than diesel. I can safely say that because it is better in the sulfur content, better flash point, aromatic content is good, and biodegradability is much better. What is the history of biodiesel? Biodiesel actually is very, very old concept. It is not at all a new concept. In 1853, scientists Duffy and Patrick, they conducted the esterification of vegetable oils, and then the journey for diesel engine began in 1893 when the famous German inventor Dr. Rudolf Diesel published his paper, The Theory and Construction of a Rational Heat Engine. Dr. Diesel used peanut oil to fuel one of his engines at the Paris Exposition of 1900. So now the journey had begun and it had to be taken forward. What was the forward direction? The forward direction was in after 1911 World Fair in Paris. Dr. Diesel ran his engine on the peanut oil and declared that diesel engine can be fed with the vegetable oils and will help in the development of agriculture. After that, this took a little setback and it was kind of forgotten. But then in 1980s, biodiesel plants opened in many European countries and cities started running buses on biodiesels. And if not pure biodiesel, the petro and the biodiesel blends were being used. आइए इंडिया की बात करते हैं. हमने देखा so many European countries, they are being, they are following the biodiesel path. What about India? We drafted our national biofuel policy in 2009 and it was mandated. Mandated means it was made compulsory to blend 5% green biofuels into petrol. But it was not followed properly. India today has no diesel substitute of note, while barely managing to achieve only about 3% bioethanol blending in gasoline. So if we go to foreign countries, if we go to US, if we go to European nations, when you ask for gas, when you ask for things like petrol, you can always see one of the counters serving the biodiesel. But we do not see that as of yet in India. So what are the major hurdles? Major hurdles have been inadequate manufacturing capacity and non-availability of non-edible vegetable oil. Students, please focus on this term, non-edible vegetable oil and molasses. This is very important because I'm going to tell you that vegetable oils, if they are edible, they should not be used because we should not compromise on anything edible for serving something which is not edible. Why? Because we are a nation which is still suffering the malnutrition. India has been spending on research on biofuel technologies for more than a decade through CSIR, MNRE. MNRE is actually new ministry. A new and renewable energy ministry was established, which started funding and which started working in the direction of alternative fuels. And then Department of Science and Technology, DBT, they all started working, giving research projects on biofuels. And the essential features of what kind of technology we are looking for. We are looking at fuel production at competitive cost, low capex and deployable at medium scale, feedstock agnostic technology, and very important, zero waste generation, low water consumption. So India, after framing the national biofuel policy, started working on JETROFA. And there was a huge ambitious plan covering the JETROFA because JETROFA showed promise regarding the biofuel potential. So biodiesel procurement started in 2014, pilot program was started in 2015, and it extended to 6 states. But then there was a huge shortage of JETROFA. So here is a lesson to learn that for any technology that we want to develop, we should not rely or we should not be limited to any one resource. We have to look for alternative resource for keep fueling our technology. So due to acute shortage of JETROFA seeds, government's ambitious plan did not materialize, and existing biodiesel plants shifted operations to adopt multiple technologies. And then we talked about JETROFA. The Planning Commission of India set the ambitious target of covering 11.2 to 13.4 million hectares of land for JETROFA cultivation. But then several public institutions, state boards, state agricultural universities supported biofuel missions, and India today still is standing in its infancy for biodiesel production. Now I'll talk about other sources which can fuel the biodiesel plant. Melvin Calvin, we all have heard of him, of Calvin's cycle. Once he had said, I am really confident that plants that grow in semi-arid regions of the world could be used to fulfill some of our chemical and energy needs of hydrocarbon? Well, all flesh is grass. We know whatever we have today is because of this great process called photosynthesis. Plants, they face very severe conditions. We as humans or even animals being motile, they can save themselves from so many things. But plants being sessile in nature, plants have to stand at one place. They face strong winds, extreme cold, insects, herbivores, UV radiations, desiccations, other biotic, abiotic stresses. And plants not only flourish, not only bloom, they lend a helping hand in form of medicines and so many products to us humans. So what is the thing that helps plants? The thing that helps plants is their chemical wit. Wit hai akal. Unki akal kahan pe aayi? Chemical wit. They secrete certain chemicals that can help them tide over these severe conditions. अगर एक सिंगल सेल की बात करें, a humble plant synthesizes many more chemicals in its lifetime than whole of the world's chemists combined. So plants have to be respected for their chemicals. Almost 3 decades earlier, Kelvin and co-workers studied the IPP cycle and reported, ये बात जरूरी है, इसी को नोट करिए, और यहीं से हमारी बायोमास से बायोफ्यूल और बायोडीजल की बात निकलती है. And reported that some plants reduce carbon dioxide beyond carbohydrate. What we use in biofuels is not carbohydrate. Please remember that. So plants reduce carbon dioxide beyond carbohydrates, that is to the level of hydrocarbons, when there is no oxygen left in the compound. And some plants are there which are accumulating such hydrocarbons of high molecular weight. They are commonly known as the petroplants or the petroleum plants. So we have to focus on these. Furthermore, he suggested it as a substitute for conventional petroleum sources. Kelvin and co-workers screened most of the plants of euphorbiaceae, especially euphorbia, which reduced carbon dioxide beyond the carbohydrate. So here he has given us one basic thread which we can hang on to and go for the biofuels. So the history of the use of hydrocarbon producing plants for biofuel production was first made by Italians, Ethiopia. Buchanan worked on, you must be aware of Buchanan. Buchanan worked on thousands of hydrocarbon producing plant species. Hoffman and his co-worker did extensive research. And these are some of the plants available in certain areas of this world, certain indigenous plants, which accumulate such hydrocarbons, and they are unique. They are very useful. This one plant is known as Pittosporum resiniferum. Pittosporum resiniferum produces this nut, and many people sell this nuts just like candles. You can have this nut, burn it, and it will keep on burning like a candle. This is called petroleum nut. Grows in the northern parts of the Philippines. You can go and search on internet and search on YouTube. They will show you burning of this nut, and it keeps on burning for a long time. It grows in the northern part of Philippines. It is rich in heptane. See, these are the chemical wits. This is what I'm talking about. Heptane, myrcene, dihydropentene, E-pinene. These are gasoline substances. So we do not have actually to depend upon petroleum for the gasoline substances. Plants are producing them. We just have to screen, explore, and put them to use. Past holds the key to future. Aluritis moluccans. It is the candle nut. In the past, it was used hugely as a candleberry. So we must not forget our past, what has been used, and it can be explored further. The candle nut is a flowering tree in spurge family, also known as the candleberry. So these are some of the YouTube links where you can, actually go and search these videos. Biodiesel was developed by Rodolphe Biodiesel, as I told you. And this is how biofuels, I told you that after 1911, the biofuels went out of fashion. The biodiesel went out of fashion, but how did it come back into fashion? During World War I, there was fuel shortage, fossil oil shortage, and therefore ethanol was in high demand. And as people could see that ethanol could be blended with gasoline for motor fuel. And more recently, there have been severe oil crises since 1970s. ये सारे crises हैं जो आए oil crisis when many countries faced them. So this led many countries like US, like Brazil, to begin modern large-scale production of biofuels. And in the last 10 years, biofuels have been embraced as a way to help resolve the greatest challenges. What are the greatest challenges? Declining fossil fuel supplies, high oil prices, and climate change also. That is one of the big challenges that we are facing. And this is the story of how biofuels came to be, why they are largely forgotten, and how they were rediscovered. So what is the promise of biofuel? I told you we will be talking about the promises and the challenges both. What is the promise? The promise is it reduces our dependence on oil. Second, it creates new jobs, improves the rural economy. Rural economy ki baat, students, please focus on this. Improves the rural economy. Villages can be self-sufficient in energy because such plants can be grown in the periphery of the villages. They can be, explored, they can be screened, they can be worked upon, and rural economy can be improved in a huge manner, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and ensure energy security. So this is the promise of biofuel. Now, what are the challenges? First, bottleneck for lignocellulosic biomass-derived fuel is the lack of technology for efficient conversion of biomass into liquid fuels. जो cars हमारे पास हैं, जो jeeps हमारे पास हैं, trucks हैं, motors हैं, these are not built in that manner that they can efficiently convert the biomass into liquid fuel. यहाँ पे एक problem है. New technologies are needed to replace fossil fuels with renewable and sustainable energy resources. So यहाँ पे बात सिर्फ और सिर्फ life scientists की नहीं रह गई है. Not limited to the botanists or the zoologists, because we really need some engineers to come up and focus on these problems so that these bottlenecks are solved. With compromise came challenges. These are the countries. These are the plants that they used. Brazil used sugarcane. Europe used rapeseed. USA used maize. All of these are edible plants, right? Maize or corn, as they say. USA used corn, and India focused on jatropha. The global experience has not been very inspiring because, see, this is a very important line. Please focus. Concentrate. In an urge to shift to greener sources of energy, कि चलो greener sources की तरफ चलते हैं, most of the major biofuel producing countries restored to staple food crop for production of bioenergy. तो bioenergy produce करने के लिए food crops का सहारा लिया जाने लग पड़ा, जो कि food security के लिए एक issue बन गया. Food versus fuel. Growing up hungry, around 800 million people. That means 1 in 9 across the globe do not have enough food. So, बात करते हैं अगर हम clean and green energy security की, तो कहाँ जा रही है हमारी malnutrition, food security. An estimated 27% of adolescents in developing countries are iron deficient. This is not a newborn child. This is a 2-year-old girl. And I have taken this picture by Reuters. This was reported. Several severely malnourished girl Rajni is weighed by health workers in Madhya Pradesh. 4 months old Vishakha is just weighing 2.3 kg, suffers from severe malnutrition. And not only our children are elderly, India is home to 194.6 million undernourished people, the highest in the world, according to the annual report by Food and Agricultural Organization. This translates into over 15% of India's population being malnourished. India scenario. Now, these are the challenges that I told you. that we should not fringe upon our food security. So what should we do? These are various countries which are running biodiesel led, different machines. Brazil is the world's largest producer of biodiesel, provided green transportation for visiting teams. World Cup के visiting teams जो थी, देखिए इसके ऊपर लिखा हुआ है BioPlanet. This is a bus being run on the biofuel. Air New Zealand Jet completed first second generation biofuel flight. All gasoline vehicles in US today can accept, ये देखिए ये जरूरी है, ये engineers ने यहाँ पे work किया. All gasoline vehicles in US in today can accept gasoline blended with up to 10% ethanol. So what is the solution? For India especially, we can concentrate on plants which can grow on wastelands. In India, hectares of lands exist as wastelands which should be covered into green oil fields, right? Punjab is having this much of wasteland, Maharashtra is having this much. ये एरिया वेस्टलैंड के रूप में हमारे पास, हमारे सर्वे ऑफ इंडिया ने बताया है कि this area does not support much of activity, neither vegetation activity, agriculture or other activity. So why not focus on this area of wasteland? And India can ride the biofuel bus. In India, plant resource is enormous, varied, unique. There are a large number of weeds, lots of wasteland. And tropical countries, India is one of the tropical countries. You know that tropics are the areas 23.5 degree north and south of equator, and India is falling in that zone. That is why its crop growth rate is very, very high. Developing countries should play a major role in the cultivation of oil producing crops, especially which can, grow on the wasteland, which do not need much of the fertilizer, much of the water compromise. So we have to look for certain plants. I've already talked to you about the biofuel policy. This is the 2020, August 2020 highlights of National Biofuel Policy. Controls and taxes on interstate movement of molasses hindered the biofuel program. Ethanol biofuel program. Biodiesel blending program has suffered due to 18% GST on biodiesel. Insufficient availability of raw material feedstock has hindered the biofuel blending program. Restriction on import of biofuel set out in NPB, that is 2018, lowered the biofuel consumption. So ये कुछ छोटी-छोटी problems हैं हमारे सामने. If we are aware of these problems, we can work on them. So these are the problems which are hindering our biofuel capability as of now. So keeping this in mind, I'm now going to take you into a short journey of what we are doing in our lab for biofuel production and for biofuel screening. So keeping this in mind, we started looking for plants to meet the triple challenge. We started looking for satisfactory answers to energy demand, stop the forced deforestation, and multiple use of hydrocarbon producing plants. So they should not only contribute to being one hydrocarbon production, but also they may have the multi-pronged uses. So our challenge was this, and we wanted to look for certain plants which can meet these challenges. So we surveyed the area around our city, that is Jalandhar, in Punjab. We undertook some research to study the hydrocarbon content of plants collected from and around the areas of Jalandhar. Most of the collections were made during the months of March to July because petroleum ether, this is the one which can extract, this solvent can extract the lipids from the plant. Petroleum ether extractables are reported to be high during these months, and the area of Jalandhar is about 3,000 square kilometer, and it has a fairly dry climate. Annual rainfall is like 703 millimeters. So 10 plants were assessed. You can see Euphorbia thymifolia, Cutinifolia, Ficus microcarpa, then Cydium, Ficus racemosa, Ficus benjamina, Exocaria, Then Convolvulus, Arvensis, Ipomia we took, Sonchus we took. All of these plants, they are the arid and semi-arid plants. They are herbs, shrubs, small trees. And we are particularly focusing on plants which widely grow in wild in arid climatic zones. Also, our main focus is on energy crops, which has not been investigated as potential sources. So this is Choti Dudi. आप जब चलते होंगे, अगर किसी ग्रीन जगह पे चल रहे हैं, आप बहुत बार देखेंगे कि जमीन पे ऐसा एक प्लांट, इट इज creeping along. So this is Euphorbia thymifolia, also known as Choti Dudi. Its identifying feature is it's mainly found in wastelands, along roadsides, wall sides, under humid conditions. The stem is very slender, very smooth, reddish. Roots are fibrous, thin, delicate. Leaves are opposite and elliptic. So this you can, yeah, I'm sure you must have seen this. This is Ficus microcarpa. ये भी आपने बहुत बार देखा होगा. Ornamental के रूप में भी बहुत ज़्यादा it is, you know, grown. Family is Moraceae, and it is known for its beautiful leaves, which are leathery, glossy, and elliptic. Cotinifolia. This is one plant which gave us very good results. रेड स्पर्ज कहते हैं इसको, लाल पत्ती भी कहते हैं, कॉपर प्लांट भी कहते हैं. इसकी पत्तियां कुछ कुछ लाल होती हैं, और जब इसको you know pluck the leaf, then you can see the sap exuding. Beware, the sap is very allergic to the skin. Milky sap है, and burgundy जैसे leaves इसके होते हैं. Bright red foliage, and this is convolvulus. इसको field bindweed भी बोलते हैं. Benjamina, वीपिंग फिग बोलते हैं. ऐसे इसके पत्ते ड्रूपिंग होते हैं, लगता है जैसे रो रहा है. फाइकस रेसमोसा, ये गुलार है. दिस इज नोन एज गुलार. सो व्हाट वी डिड विद दीज प्लांट्स, वेरी क्विकली वी सर्वेड, prepared the extracts. Mainly शुरू हम पेट्रोलियम ईथर से हुए. पेट्रोलियम ईथर एक्सट्रैक्ट्स प्रिपेयर किए. बायोक्रूड we got, we took the biocrude, estimated the extractable material, then we estimated the different kind of lipids present, then we studied the physico-chemical properties of the lipids. So this was our plan of action. Ground, above ground mass को लेकर collect them, विले मिल से इसको बिल्कुल फाइन कर लिया, पाउडर ले लिया इसका. पाउडर obtained was sieved with the help of a muslin cloth. Wortman paper number 1, thimbles were prepared. thimbles जिसमें कि हमने इनको भरा, fill किया 15 ग्राम के आसपास. Sequential extractions were performed in Soxhlet apparatus. Acetone extract आया, it was partitioned between hexane and ethanol. Thimble was dried, and second extraction was performed with petroleum ether and respective biocrude, which consisted of oil, polyphenols, hydrocarbon, was dried using rotary vacuum evaporator, and yields were calculated by weighing. So this is the scheme of extraction. I have already told you about the scheme, and these are the apparatus used. This is the Soxhlet apparatus. यहाँ पे you must be aware of this kind of an apparatus. It is widely used in natural plant products lab. This is used for the hot extraction. This is the hot plate, and once this the material over here, that is the solvent, heats up, it makes vapors, and then it falls from this thimble. Thimble के अंदर हमने अपना जो भी substance है, जैसे कि Euphorbia cotinifolia का powder, we have filled and kept here. When the drops of acetone or whatever chemical is coming down, it is washing this thimble, and the dissolvable material is coming down. So this way we can extract the oil, polyphenol from here. Then separatory funnel क्या किया, जब इसमें से हमें material biocrude आ गया, biocrude से we wanted to separate out the lipids, the hydrocarbons. So over there we use the separatory funnel to do that. After we have got the extracts, we wanted them to dry up. So we used the rotary vacuum evaporator, and we used high vacuum pump for that. So this is the yield we got from various plants, and you can see the yields that we are getting are here. The maximum yield that we got was for Euphorbia thymifolia, followed by Euphorbia cotinifolia. So this is actually whatever I told you. See, this is the biomass powder. residue, and Soxhlet extraction, and followed by rotary vacuum evaporation. The biocrude looked like this. This is the biocrude which we extracted, and because we started getting good results from Cotinifolia, so we started working on this. And today I'm going to discuss this particular plant in detail, Euphorbia cotinifolia. So this is further, the biocrude which was obtained was subjected to column chromatography. Column chromatography में flash column भी use किया. We used the long column also, and the sample was filled and sequentially extracted using the column chromatography method. And you can see the oil which has come out using this column chromatography. You can see the band traveling down and the remaining oil being separated out. Sorry. The oil that we received was checked for its iodine value, for its acid value, for its peroxide value, and it was compared with the Jatropha biodiesel. So it was found to be comparable in most of the aspects. This is a standard procedure. All the biodiesel or biofuel that we produce should have these, parameters met. The ash content of oil was found to be moderate, which indicates the oil is not abrasive for the engine. किसी भी oil का जो ash content है वो हमें बताता है कि वो engine को कितना को corrode करेगा. Fuel with low ash content are preferable. High moisture content creates problems in transesterification. So moisture content should be low. If it is too high, oil will become leathery. So our oil had moderate moisture content. The iodine value is a measure of unsaturation of fats. Higher iodine value indicates higher unsaturation of fats and oils, and high iodine value and oxidative stability shows that oil holds good qualities for semi-drying purpose. And acid value भी बताता है कि उसकी corrosive activity कितनी होगी. So this is an important variable in considering the quality of oil, because lower the free fatty acid, the better the quality of oil. पेरोक्साइड वैल्यू भी हमें बताती है कि ऑक्सीडेटिव स्टेबिलिटी कितनी होगी. सो ऑल ऑफ दीज वर द डिजायरेबल कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स ऑफ द एक्सट्रैक्टेबल ऑयल सैंपल. एंड आज what we are doing is we are working on the transesterification of the oil, and after transesterification we want to produce biodiesel. Actually we have produced biodiesel. The biodiesel that we produced was tested for the ignition point, and it showed good results. It is still in its nascent stage. We're working on it. And once again, these are the SWOT analysis. Strengths क्या क्या है इंडिया की अगर बायोफ्यूल्स में जाएं, नॉलेज है, accessibility to the biodiversity है, skilled manpower है, and sustainable energy supply हो सकती है, opportunity है, employment creation can be there, strengthening economy can be there, energy security, environment improvement, less dependency on import of gasoline. This is very, very important. But what are the threats, weaknesses and threats? Weaknesses, we are technically immature. So this has to be worked on. Food versus fuel concern has to be worked on. Lower energy content, gasoline से energy content low होता है. This has to be worked on. महंगा पड़ रहा है अभी, इसकी cost effectiveness इतनी नहीं है. That has to be worked upon. Threats. Higher uncertainty, lack of robustness of industrial process, because abhi industry has not focused on biofuels. So that process has to be met. Direct competition with food production has to be met. And this is our national biofuels policy once again. So thank you very much. That was all from my side. I can see I have exceeded my time limit just by a little fraction of time. Thank you very much, and I'm open to questions from you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such a nice information about biofuels. And students, please ask questions.